Hey, what's up? It's Jared, the MTG Ninja. Welcome to another video. I know some of you have been waiting patiently for a follow-up to the vinyl altar video. So in the first video, I know I had to run through things pretty quickly, and so this is going to be a little bit longer of a video, but I'm basically going to take you through the whole process of how to make a vinyl altar, all the way from the beginning of designing everything to the end of cutting it out, peeling it, and putting it on your card. So hopefully this will answer some of the questions that you guys had, and yeah, let's jump into Illustrator. I am going to be working on a design for a vinyl altar on a Priest of Titania from Urza's Saga, and this is by the amazing Rebecca Gay. And let me just show you really quick how we can put a design together. So, like I mentioned in my other video, what I usually do is I start with some stock files, so that way I can get a really quick start to things, because I'm just not a real designer, and so yeah, this is something so that I'm not taking hours or like half a day to work on a design. But so here's a stock file that I got from Getty, and it's got some really cool designs in it. I think I actually might have used this one on the crop rotation that I did. Anyway, so I'm just gonna grab one of these designs from here. I'm just gonna copy it, and then we're gonna go back and paste it in here. Oh, and by the way, I went and I got this image of the card from Scryfall. But yeah, I'll take this design in here, and I'm actually gonna change the color because I want it to look silver, kind of like it's gonna look in the end, because I'm going to be using metallic silver vinyl. But let me just grab this silver color from one that I did before. So I'm just going to click over in the color palette, and I'm going to copy that color. Let me turn that back off, and then paste in that code for that color. There, now we got it looking silver. So if you bring, you know, a stock design in, obviously it's not going to be the right size. And even if you tried to resize it, you know, things get a little wonky, because, you know, you don't want that design over in the corner to be that big. It's coming over the name, and it doesn't look good. So you're going to have to do a little bit of messing around with these stock designs to get them to look how you want. I'm actually going to make this a little bit smaller until I've got this corner design looking how I want it. Move that around a little bit. So I don't know, maybe something like that. But again, if you try to make it bigger, then your corner design is going to be messed up. So an easy way to make it fit to your size is you go over to the point selector, and this will just select the different points in your vector, and then you can just click and drag to select all these points on this side. And then when you're over one of the points, you just click and you can drag, and you want to hold shift so that it doesn't move up or down. Hold shift and drag it out until you got it close to where you want it. And then do the same thing for the points on the bottom. You click and drag to select them, go over one of the points, hold shift as you're moving it down. Okay, and I'm going to switch back to the regular selector, and there we go. That's looking pretty good. Now I'm just going to go, and in the align panel, I'm just going to align it vertically and horizontally just so it's totally centered up. You know, and if you want to adjust it a little bit more, maybe we're getting a little too close to that edge, you know, you can select these and then move them down just a little bit. I don't know, something like that. And then I'll just make sure we have it aligned again. vertically. There we go. And that's looking pretty good, and that only took us a couple minutes. But then yeah, I'll go back and I'll pick another one that looks good. Like I like this design here. So I'll just, oh, I think we're missing this. There we go. Actually, I don't know if I like that. I'll just grab that, copy it. And then I'll make another layer and we'll paste it in. And then I'm gonna grab the color from this one, copy it, and then put the color on this one, paste it in. There we go. And I'm gonna lock our first layer just so we're not moving that around. And then I'm gonna move this to where I want it to be. And I just want it around the artwork. And so then we do the same thing. I go to the point selector and I select all the points that I want to move. And then I move them out. And then select the ones down here that I want to move. Move them up. Do that again until I got those in place. And you can mess around with it more, but yeah, that looks pretty good to me. So one tip that I do want to show you is, I mean, this looks pretty good, except we've got some really thin lines in here in different places, and those are going to be kind of hard to cut when they're that thin. Yeah, it's just gonna be a pain. And so you might want to, you know, after you get this in here and you like everything, you might want to just thicken those up a little bit. And a good way to do that is you select your vector design here with the regular selector, and then what you can do is over in the appearance tab over here, you just click on this stroke and you can add a stroke to it. So maybe we'll go up to like a 1 point stroke and we'll click off of it just so we can see what it looks like, and that looks a little bit better. You know, it's not quite as thin, and that'll probably cut a little bit better and be a little bit easier to weed when you're trying to peel it off. But one thing that I should mention is once you add that stroke to it, you're going to want to select it and go to Object, Path, and then outline the stroke. Then you won't run into any problems when you're taking it over to Silhouette Studio. And then another thing that you might have to do is select that. And you can see over here that it's a couple different layers that are grouped together, or objects that are grouped together. And so what I usually do is I select that group, and then I go into the Pathfinder, and you can see this button here just joins them together. And I think you need to do that before you take it over to Silhouette Studio, if I'm remembering correctly, but yeah, so I figured I'd show you that just in case you run into any issues where you added the stroke and then you take it over there and it just ends up not coming across. You might have to just join them together in the Pathfinder. Let's just do one more thing. So usually what I try to do is, you know, I put that outer border and then I put the inner border, but then I also try to do something with the artwork. And so I'll take the pen tool. Let me just kind of zoom in here. For this image, it looks like a good thing to kind of highlight would be the staff. And so you can just go in with your pen tool and just go over the staff. And if it gets hard to see, you can switch it to stroke instead of fill. But yeah, maybe something like this. And then switch it back to fill, where we're just making it so that, you know, when you do the vinyl, you'll have this kind of silver staff along with like the border designs. And you know, you could go and also do all of these flowers if you wanted to, and you had the time. You know, go in here and, you know, add some variation to the outside a little bit. And if I was taking my time, I'd go in and kind of do all these little details where you get a little bit more texture and variation to it. But yeah, I'm just trying to do this really quick for you guys so you can get a good idea of what to do. But yeah, do a flower and do the stem as well. Again, I would take my time with this, but you guys get the idea. Yeah, and you can go back and you could do the whole staff, and you could do all of these flowers, and that actually would look really cool. I might just go in and do some more of the staff just so you can see it real quick. All right, so there we go. We got the staff made. If we wanted to, we could go back and do all these flowers, which would be really cool, and we've got the borders put in. But yeah, so when you are done with everything, again, you're probably going to want to go, if you have any strokes, you're going to want to go and outline them, and you're going to want to go and use the Pathfinder to join everything. But yeah, when you get done, if you go and into File and then Export and Export As, you're going to want to export it as a DXF file, AutoCAD interchange file. And then you just go ahead and export that as a DXF file, and then you can take it into Silhouette Studio. Oh, I should mention that one thing I did do was, in each of these designs that I made in Illustrator, I started putting this kind of outside bounding box. I don't know if you can see that, but I have a little bit of a an object around the edge there, you know, just kind of like the same as like this border, but you know, just a rectangle that I put around the edge so that when I take it into Silhouette Studio, I'll know exactly what size to make it. So let me show you that real quick. Okay, here we are in Silhouette Studio. So if you go to File and then Open, I'm just going to open a recent one that I did. So here is the Priest of Titania that I designed earlier, where I took my time with everything. I didn't end up doing the flowers, but you know, I did this kind of flowy vine looking border, and then with some leaves with vines for the inside one. I really like that. But so this is what it's going to look like when you bring it in. And so if you go and select all, so Control A or Command A, and then go to Object Group, you'll have it all grouped together. And then when you select it, it'll select everything. And then what you can do is you're going to have to resize it before you cut it, send it to cut. And it can be kind of tough to know, like, how do I resize this? Like, you know, what's going to be the right size for my vinyl so that it fits perfectly with my card. And for me, it took a lot of playing around, but you know, once I put this kind of outside bounding box on there, then I only had to figure it out once, and then I could, you know, every time after just type in the size that was the right size and send it to cut. So actually I don't remember what the size was. I'll have to, let me open up this project where I had them all ready to go. So if I go in and select one of these, you can see the width on it is 2.479 is what I ended up with as the right size. And so all you have to do is, let me go back. I have this selected. I can go up to the width, and I think it was 2.479. And now it's going to be the right size for me. And that might not be the right number for you guys. It depends on your size in Illustrator. And I think I can check that real quick if I go to the artboard. This is what I have it set up as in Illustrator, and so if you want to do the same thing, then you can keep the numbers the same. But you know, my artboard is width 9.3333 inches and height of 13 inches. So then when I go into Silhouette Studio, I just switch the width to 2.479, and that's the right size for me. Yeah, and then when you have however many you want set up on this 12 by 12 board, then you can go over to send. And these settings are gonna kind of change depending on your machine and you know how sharp your blade is. But for me, I think I ended up having to set the blade depth to 2. Did one pass. I had to put the speed down to 3 and the force down to like 6 or 7. And that worked pretty good for me on the cutting machine that I'm using. And then you just send it to cut. And I should say that it definitely took some trial and error for me to get the settings right, because I switched to a new machine and a different blade for this one. I think this one had a sharper blade, and so I had to adjust quite a bit of the settings. So this is kind of how it's looking after it gets cut. It's kind of hard to see, but yeah, now we're going to start the weeding process. Alright, so I've got most of the weeding done, or at least the big parts of it, but now I need to go and kind of take out all these little holes. So you can see in like the vine areas, those are not supposed to be filled in. And again, I wouldn't take your tool and try and pick at those, because you can damage it and then you'll have to do a new one. But what I would do, and what I found to be the easiest, is, you know, if you go to whichever one you want to take out and you just kind of bend it at that corner, you can get it to pop up, and then you can just peel it out. And then what I usually do is I take a little piece of tape, fold it over, you know, put it down on something. So then as you're peeling these little pieces off, you can just go and stick it to that tape to get it off of you really quick. Yeah, and then you just go through each of these little pieces and bend it, peel off the part you don't want, get rid of it, and keep going all the way around. So when you get done with the weeding, then you're going to use some transfer tape to transfer the vinyl over to your card. And as you can see here, I'm cutting a new piece of transfer tape. And when it's brand new, it's a little bit sticky. And so if you need to take a little bit of that stick off, you can put it on your clothing and that'll make it a little less sticky. But yeah, then press it down onto your vinyl. And as you're peeling it up, just make sure that all the little pieces of vinyl are sticking to your transfer tape. And then when you move over to the card, it just takes a little bit of patience to make sure that you get it in the right spot. For example, with this one, I just had to make sure that the staff was exactly on top of the staff. Yeah, it just takes a little bit of patience, but you can do it. So hopefully it was helpful for you guys to go through in a little bit more detail the process of making your vinyl altar. If you guys have any questions, just leave them in the comments. And if anyone's looking for a commission, I'm still not taking commissions right now. And so if you're interested, there is another person that I know that does a really good job on their vinyl altars. And his name is SleepAlters on social media. And I'll leave his information in the description in case you guys want to contact him for commissions. But yeah, thanks for going through this video with me, and hopefully it was helpful. If you haven't yet, like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. See ya.